I don't think I've ever done an album that was quite so um, electric guitar orientated and so spontaneous. So
Hmm.
this is very different.
Hi, I'm Dean Wolfe. Welcome to the channel. I just had that interview with Steve Hackett. We kind of just started the call and it just started rolling and I just rolled with it. I didn't really do a proper introduction, so just in case I need to, this is Steve Hackett. He's from Genesis. He has his solo projects. He's very active touring. Right now he's doing releasing live albums, and of course he's got this new album he just did with Steve Rothery of Marillion. So it's in a sense it's got this sort of Genesis vibe meets Marillion. So it's kind of interesting. What's going to happen here? How is this album going to turn out? The album comes out August 28th, I think, is when you can buy it. You can pre-order it now. There's all kinds of cool LPs you can get vinyl with signature signed. You get CD signed. I'm going to have a review of the album come out very soon. I'm genuinely loving it, guys. It's something different too for Steve, and he will talk about that in the interviews.
Which brings us at last to the moment of truth.
Let me show you. Okay.
Hi there.
Hey,
Can you hear me? Good.
yes,
Okay, great. All right.
great.
Okay.
Was that Joe? Joe? That
That
was
was
just
Joe.
there?
Yes,
Oh,
that's right.
okay.
Yeah, that's her.
Cool.
Yeah.
Tell her I said hi.
I will. Yes, I think she heard that. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Dean says hi, Jojo. There we go. Dean says hi to you.
Yeah.
Hi from her. There we go.
Yes. I know she sang on this album on the last track, so
That's right. Yeah, there's a
she,
little bit of that from our wives, and
yeah.
yes, yeah,
Have you done that before? Has
families.
Joe sung before on any of your
Yeah,
work?
funnily enough, she has. Yes, I
Okay.
think there've been a few things, and yeah, she likes to be low key about this sort of stuff. It's a strange thing. She doesn't always get the credit that she deserves, and now
Hmm.
some of that is because she's very not shy and retiring, but I think it's more a case of saying, well, yeah, they're more interested in you than me. And funnily enough, we're writing a book together at the moment, and whenever she says, "Oh, they're going to be more interested in you than me," I think, no, actually, they're going to be interested in what you're talking about as well, or should be. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little now about the Roaring Sea, the Hackett and Rothery, sorry, album. And I've just been enjoying it actually. I wanted just to quickly say that I want to do a review of the album, and to me, it's the kind of album you put on your headphones and you just sit back and really enjoy it. And there was a smile coming to my face, including on the final track, when I realized you were the one who was playing the harmonica,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was you're really good. I've tried harmonica. I don't know how you play so well. What's the story there?
Well, harmonica was my first instrument, and many years ago, I did a blues album in the '90s, and I was I started out life as a fan of Larry Adler, and then I ended up being a fan of Paul Butterfield, and I think they were both geniuses. I got to spend a little time with Larry Adler in later life, and he happened to be brilliant at being able to do a version of Rhapsody in Blue, one hand on the piano, one hand on the harmonica, and uh, it did have a very bluesy, rootsy um, feel about it, doing it that way. So I think the harmonica is a great instrument, and when it's mic'd up, if it's going through an amp, then it's very often mistaken for guitar. But I can tell the difference. I like the sound of it. It's a little bit closer to the trumpet, I think. Um, I've recorded some recently on something else on another album I've been working on, and it's great to find that at home the combination of an SM57, an old one of those, and so an old mic and that looks like a gun. I won't be taking it through customs. Um, an Engel amp and a Sounds amp creates a really good ripping blues sound. It happens to be a great sound. Yeah.
Well, I heard Chris Squire playing harmonica on a live recording. Oh, what was it for song? What was the song? It was And You and I or something. He played some
Right.
harmonica. So
Uh-huh.
it's not exactly foreign to prog rock, is it?
Yeah, I think there aren't too many prog rockers who play harmonica. Well, I suppose, Zepp, there was some there. There was some with Cream. Depends what you call progressive, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think genres are, well, it's difficult to describe. I was thinking inclusive music. I mean, I have a feel and a respect for blues, which I grew up listening to, as well as lots of other genres. Um, and it's where developments happened sonically with guitars. They learned to scream and cry and sustain and do all those wonderful things that are part and parcel of rock. Really came from blues. So
Yeah.
yeah, blues deserves a healthy respect.
And I did notice the flavors of blues come through on this new album that you've made with Steve Rothery. Were you conscious of that sort of bleeding through the sort of because I don't know if you set out and said, "Oh, I mean, obviously this album kind of unfolded. You said that it was over 8 years or more that you were kind of getting
Yeah,
together, having your
yeah.
sessions. And did you notice the blues bleeding through a little bit there, or
Well, I think that the last track, Pacific Coast Highway, that was one when we recorded it, we weren't sure whether we should include it because it's far from progressive. It sounds like a 60s band having fun, just jamming along and along for the ride, as the title denotes. It's a kind of feel good thing. It's not considered. It's all responsive. It's musical conversations. Let's not try and perfect this. Let's keep it honest and just let loose and let's do something that might not be a million miles away from some of the Allman Brothers jams and what have you. So um, it's probably the only example of um, Americana or American influence on the entire album, which sounds probably a lot more um, European. I think. As soon as you start hearing mellotrons, you think, oh, okay, that's got to be an English band. On the other hand, Aerosmith, their first hit, I think, um, had a mellotron, and I thought, oh, yeah, it
right?
sounds like an English band.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad you kept it on the album because I think actually that's one of my comments listening to the album is the sequence of tracks. You know, that's so important when you're making an album. There's 7 tracks and it feels the flow is perfect. And the final track is actually a perfect cap on the album. And even though it is fun, like you say, it does make me smile when I hear that track. It also kind of it had some acoustic guitar parts that
Yeah,
reminded
that's
me of
right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that we sound like a pair of hippies on that one, really. And that's fine. I mean, God, the stuff that I grew up listening to and the way I wanted to play when I was 18, um, it might have sounded quite a lot like that. I used to let loose with that stuff. I wasn't too worried about the chords. I just wanted to make it scream and cry and do all those things that guitars do well, like imitate police cars and what have you.
I
Yeah.
was curious. I always see you with a Les Paul, Gibson Les
Yeah.
Paul. GTR, you were playing something that looked more like a Strat, but it was probably with the guitar synthesizer on it, right?
That's right. That was a Schecter in those days. These days, I think, quite a lot of the stuff that I used on this album was Fernandez, which has a Les Paul shape to it, but it has the sustainer pickup. So um,
Right.
I've got a few of those, and I used a couple of different ones on the album. Um, I also used, I think I was using one of the guitars that Brian May had developed when he was very young with his father, the Red Special. I I got one of those, and that's an interesting sounding guitar. So in many ways, guitars end up being named after the players. Les Paul, who I got to meet, of course, many years ago. Yes, fantastic developments. I think he came up with multi-tracking as well. So
Yeah.
Les
Yeah.
Paul, Mary Ford, we owe a lot to that, So we take
Yeah.
it for granted now, but the idea of, oh, I want to have another pass on this and do vari speed and various things. He was quite the innovator.
Where would we be without multi-track, man?
Yeah,
Like unbelievable. So
yep,
I asked some of people who watch my channel. I was letting them know I was going to interview, and I said, if you had any questions, just leave them on a comment section. So I picked
yep,
a few, and
sure,
if you don't mind, I'll read a couple of them.
absolutely.
Let's see. Okay, Space Kitchen Band. Hey, okay, this is his name is Rob. He wants to know, as someone who doesn't specialize in guitar, will I be able to tell which guitar is Hackett's and which is Rothery's while listening? And actually,
Uh,
that's another comment I'll make. When I listened to I didn't hear hard left, hard right. Oh, this is Steve. This is the other
no,
Steve.
no, we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Um, we could have done, but I think to have a homogeneous stereo mix, let alone Atmos and all the rest, we there are times when I think, oh, is that him or is that me? I'm not sure myself. We were having a musical conversation, answering each other. So, there's no disgrace in not being able to tell who's who. I would say overall, Steve on this album, Mr. Rothery, tended to use a slightly cleaner sound than mine. Mine was perhaps more overdriven, but yeah, he uses both. So clean electric would have been him when it was clean nylon guitar acoustic on the beginning of the title track. That was me. So there's a few clues there.
Yeah. That's right. Keep him guessing is what you're doing there.
And why not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. There's another question here. This is from I have three lady friends that I met in camp. I was 12 years old. I was
Right.
in a summer camp, and we could spot each other from across the field. Like everyone was wearing Yes t-shirts and Genesis and ELP. Right away, there's this little prog rock group, and we've been friends
Yeah.
all these years. So Chris has a question for you. She say, here is something I always wonder when I'm listening to live prog. What is it like for a successful prog musician to be performing these beautiful, complex pieces over and over repeatedly? There must be pros and cons to bringing progressive music to the live stage versus the controlled situation in a recording studio. Do the pieces lose something after a while, or do they, in fact, take on a life of their own beyond the original studio recording?
Oh, well, I think right at the end, I think she's hit the nail on the head. Things do take on a life of their own. I try to do authentic renditions of songs, but then I will sometimes go off the reservation right at the end of something, particularly if I'm doing the Genesis stuff, and I
Mhm.
give myself license to go off on one, like at the end of Supper's Ready on the Foxtrot album from 1972, long time ago. Um, and so I do change it up right at the end. So I play what I think are the most iconic phrases, and then allow myself to just play spontaneously and let the guitar do whatever it wants to do. And some nights it's spectacular. Other times I think, oh yes, I've played that before. I'm waiting for a visit from a higher force here. And sometimes that happens where you're doing something and it sounds absolutely amazing and unexpected and oh, absolutely, yes, dead right. Not just relying on technique, but getting it all in the right order. So it's different every time, is what I'm saying.
But you're very active touring. I mean, you're constantly, it seems, on tour. It's great. And do you find that that is necessary for you to keep so you can get into that spot where the light's shining through you and it's just, you know?
Well, there's a side of me that thinks I was, if there was any design to my life from outside, I think that the idea was, yes, um, touring is hard because you've got to get the notes right and all of that, and the rigors of the road mean that you've got to be fit and adaptable and be prepared to fall asleep at the drop of a hat and do all the other things and travel long distances in every imaginable vehicle. But somehow there's still a joy to it, and the joy I get from it is seeing audiences getting moved by it, whether that's something new they've never heard before, or it's a very old friend of a track. So um, it really does feel great when I can see they absolutely love it, and I can see people's eyes getting wider and they're getting more and more into it. And although this may not be the original band, it's a band full of incredible players that I'm working with currently, who lay waste to any misconceptions that it can't be done as well as the original. I think that they basically rewrite history every night, and there's some wonderful things that happen by each of the musicians. They never cease to amaze me. It's given me quite a lot of confidence live. In fact, so much so that, the last person who joined us is a keyboard player called Lalle Larsson, who's Swedish. And when he starts doing solos, even if it's older material, it gives it such a shot in the arm that the audiences start giving us encores almost from the word go, and that's an incredible feeling. It's really great that they're so into it. So there are a number of great soloists with the band, and that makes a difference. They all want to be there doing it, and they're all having fun. And I know that they're capable of playing lots of different kinds of music, so it's very inclusive. I know that several of them are very good classical players, as they are jazz players, and so I think there's a healthy respect for different styles and genres.
So on the new album with Steve Rothery,
Yeah,
um, let's see, like the first track you've released as a single, The Black Sea.
yeah,
That's such a beautiful track. I think it's one of my favorites. But K129 is really an interesting one because it's the one album. I mean, it's the one track on the album that's has a more electronic feel. It did
yes,
remind me a bit of Tangerine Dream, which is one band I
right.
just love, you know? So,
Well, it's an interesting thing because Steve Rothery has worked with Tangerine Dream, and so that's an interesting combination. I would say the track, The Black Sea, which we did a video for at Peter Gabriel's studio, that one, um, we were influenced by the spy genre, that kind of music. I was thinking we're both fans of John Barry, and I'm a fan of Lalo Schifrin. There's crossover between those two when you listen to the music of Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. There are moments where the spy genre creeps in. So that was it. There's something of lurking in the shadows in that one.
yeah, it's a cinematic feel to it, which happens a few
Cinematic, yeah,
times. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And there's something about the music in that. I decided not to play fast at all, but to play atmospherically and respond to Steve Rothery's arpeggiated phrases, his picking stuff. to interject with noises, and then once it starts to pick up, I was using a Fernandez where I'm hitting the strings very lightly. So when you play the note, it kind of expands slowly, a little bit like backwards guitar, but you're doing it live. You're doing it.
So that wasn't actually a reverse guitar.
No, it's not reverse guitar.
It sounded
If I
just like
remember
it.
correct, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
unless there is one track that ends up with some actual reverse. It's a couple of phrases.
Okay.
It might be on that one. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but the majority, 99%, is forwards guitar from me that sounds a little backwards. I'm fading in. I'm using the pickup. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to interject a quick little question from a listener or watcher. His name is Jackknife Music 89. He's from Argentina.
Right.
He's wondering mostly concerning the song, the musical box. He says, give, he's, there might be an English translation issue here. I don't know, but to give us one example of early album songs in which the band told you exactly what to do with the guitar, and in an opposite situation where you wrote the guitar part yourself and the band approved.
Okay. Well, the music box as a song, musical box, was already written by the time I joined the band, but I was given three guitar solos during that, and an interplay with guitar and keyboard. And Tony was trying to sound like a guitarist there, so you get this kind of symbiotic thing, a third instrument. Sometimes we're playing in harmony, sometimes across each other. Um, so I joined the band on the basis that whenever I played an original guitar part, I was regarded as a full writer with the team. And and then, if you jumped ahead to something like Blood on the Rooftops from Wind and Wuthering, it's my guitar part. I don't think the band ever really said to me, you've got to play exactly these notes. There would be chord changes, and you would decide if you were going to join those changes or play some kind of counter to that. You might join up with bass if it's a particularly thick, complete sound. Um, there's not always room for being a guitar hero, especially with the Genesis stuff. You had to choose your moment. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay. A lot of Prog fans seem to like Angine de Poitrine, and I'm probably curious about what your thoughts are.
Yeah, very interesting. Interesting that they take a theatrical approach to something that's interesting, interesting music, in order to put it across. Um, uh, Very interesting, very unusual, very quirky, very eccentric, characterful. I'm searching for adjectives here, and I wonder how they, or do they, do this sort of stuff live. It must be quite difficult to perform in costume to that degree, but it might be from the Peter Gabriel school of confining yourself in some kind of costume and trying to perform virtuosically through the veil.
Of
But there
course,
we go.
they're very central to them is they're using this looper, right? So I wonder, which is really revolutionary. I mean, there was no loopers back when you started out, I'm sure, right? That
Yeah,
loopers didn't
yeah.
come around till 80s or something. So, do you ever use a looper yourself?
Not usually. I have used it live many years ago when I was doing a show that was largely acoustic, and then at one point I picked up a thing called the step, and electric guitar, just to sort of do this thing. It was a duo, myself and John, and so the step was a MIDI controller. It was controlling strings. Um, the other thing had a sort of sound on sound function, and I was having a bass note that was on repeat, and then playing harmonies, doing a version of the saber dance and this kind of stuff. So it was. I don't have any recordings of that. I suspect it's maybe someone's got a tape of it out there somewhere in the found on the moon in a metal box somewhere. Yeah.
Well, I know we're almost out of time. I was told 25 minutes, so there's a couple minutes left. Um, Yeah, I wanted to just say again, reiterate that I think the album's wonderful. It's beautiful. There's so much, it's very unhurried and it feels it's not like your typical guitar album. Like I've got this one album that's got Steve Vai and a bunch of other guitars, and it's all about showing off and who's squawking the fastest or whatever. This album
Sure.
is very much centered on feelings and um atmospheres, and joy. Actually, that was another big thing. I felt a lot of joy coming out of the album.
Yeah. We decided not to do that kind of salvo driven thing. Nothing wrong with that. And Steve Vai is a great player. Um, amongst others. And I'm a fan of speedy guitar. I often do that, usually at home. And because I'm aware that people might accuse me of playing tastelessly fast, but um, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the kind of album that I was doing with Rothery was much more cinematic, and I think that's a favorite word,
Mhm.
that he uses, the idea of something cinematic and an imaginary film, an imaginary soundtrack to an imaginary film, was where we were coming from. I suspect that, although I'm not sure, when Fleetwood Mac many years ago, I'd seen Peter Green playing with John Mayall's Blues Breakers, lots of great ripping blues guitar, really, 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 really good. And then the young Peter Green formed Fleetwood Mac, and um, after uh, a single or two, they did Albatross, and I was initially baffled as to why they would do something so laid back, but I realized that it's rock's equivalent of what in classical terms you'd call a tone poem. It's descriptive. It's atmospheric music, it's descriptive, it's ambient, it's all of these things. It's not trying to prove anything. It's painting a picture, and it's another way to go. There's proficiency-driven music. Um, that's the area that I think jazz covers, to a large degree, heavy metal too. Um, where would we be with heavy metal without some incredibly fast, heroic playing? And that can be brilliant and stunning and wonderful. But I think it's harder to absorb an evening of that, of being machine gunned. Um, Once you've heard, a blinding solo, I I usually find I want to hear a piece of music. I can't help it. That's that's how it is. Maybe I'll contradict myself and do a heavy metal album one day, or a blues album, blues metal, if there's such a genre. And because I loved all of that, the freedom of that. So one didn't have to be careful about the playing. You didn't have to worry about the chord changes. Just something that was incredibly angry or sad. The area of blues that I find very romantic in its own way, as it was described on the sleeve notes of the Eric Clapton with John Mayall's Blues Breakers from 1966. one of the solos described by Neil Slaven was as beautiful savagery. There is something where the guitar is really singing and you're hearing the plectrum stroke and he's tearing into it and bah, 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 bah. And it sounds angry. I know Eric said many years later that he was angry when he did that. I don't know what he was angry about, but it was certainly the most constructive form of anger.
Mm,
Nobody died.
yeah.
It's just great music.
Maybe just one last question. Do we have time for one more minute? Or do
Sure,
you
yeah.
have? Okay.
No, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay, so what about this album is distinctly different or unique apart from anything you've done to date?
Well, I don't believe I've ever done an album that's fully electric guitar. Um, Electric guitar has been part of the picture. I've come from a songwriting tradition with Genesis. It's one of the reasons they hired me, and that that creates a certain kind of music. You know, the idea of three through composition. Um, Now you can have jams, etc., 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 as well, and we certainly did that. But the majority of what we have on this album is spontaneous. It's a musical conversation. Um, One of us would play a phrase, the other would respond to it. Lots of question and answer. So I don't think I've ever done an album that was quite so um, electric guitar orientated and so spontaneous. So
Hmm.
this is very different. Um, it's funny. I'd be interested to see people's response to it. I suspect when you're a young guitarist starting out, you probably think it's plenty fast. If you're a heavy metal fan, you probably think it's too slow. It's just that it's there's a way for the music to float. I think I would think of it as a example of a floating world. It's about the sea, after all, in all its moods. Um, so yes, it is different to anything I've done before. There may well be another album that Steve Rodder and I do together, and then we may have enough to be able to play live. He certainly joined me on stage several times, um, and um, I've joined Marillion on stage when Mike Oldfield was on, and various others. So that was that was certainly very interesting. In fact, I think I came in on the wrong number. I just jammed along anyway. One of those things, with no tour manager to say to me, "Yeah, this is the one you come on." So I just played along.
Hmm. That's great. Well, thank you for your time, Steve. It's been a real pleasure, and I've still got 100 questions, but I'll have to save them for another time.
Okay. Well, we'll do it another time at some
All
point, Dean.
right.
Thank you.
Cool.
All the
Have a
best.
great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
You too, and all your
Cheers.
and all your fans there. Okay.
All right.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Good health.